So, in my continual quest to find out and expand my knowledge and experience in sync licensing, I've run into lots of people. And one of the people I keep running into at events, online, and in many areas of sync is Michèle Vice-Maslin. Michèle is an Emmy Winning #1 hit music songwriter, producer, publisher, arranger. She composes both music and lyrics, and she produces and arranges for artists, films, television, ads, promos, games. The list goes on. And let me tell you, in our interview, there are so many nuggets, folks. You're going to want to be careful to take notes, to watch this all the way through. This interview was so much, it's going to have to probably be 2 or 3 videos. There's so much that we talk about. But today we talk about how she got started in sync licensing, or as she calls it, music placements. We also talk about her thoughts on exclusivity in licensing. We talk about how she does sync licensing work for hire. I want to find out more about this, and so do you, I'm telling you. We're going to talk about how she pitches her music. We're going to talk about, is it more important to have great songs or to have a great network? We're going to talk about her thoughts on briefs. We're going to talk about the importance of vocals. We're going to talk about some misconceptions people have about sync, what she thinks the biggest misconception is, how we create music for sync, and how we measure success in sync licensing. And this is just the first part of our conversation. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Make Music Income today. My name is Eric Copeland, and as always, I am trying to find out ways to make income with my music. And today we're talking about sync licensing for films, for TV, for video games, for advertising, all the things that you can do with your music in the world of licensing, as we are wont to talk about on this channel. If you are looking for info on getting into sync licensing yourself, well, I have something for you. You can check out the first few sections of my course, Getting in Sync, for free, costs you nothing. Just go to the link below at makemusicincome.com and go to our courses section and our ebook section. We have a course on it. We have an ebook on it. I just feel sync licensing is a great way to make back-end royalties, something we've always wanted as artists, and you probably always wanted a music publishing deal. It's all these things wrapped in one. So just go to makemusicincome.com and check out all the things we have for you there. We'd love to help. We've got all sorts of free stuff and our courses and our ebooks, whatever helps you get to the next place, making music income. And now let's get to part 1 of my conversation with Michèle Vice-Maslin. Why don't we start out with something that's very interesting to me, just because I am working on a resource of this, and I just like to know how everybody got their start in sync licensing. And I think I know how you did, but just generally, without giving away too much, what was the first thing? How did it just, when it like clicked in your head? I know when it clicked in my head that sync was a thing, and it was decades after you did, because you figured it out early, but and probably living out. Have you always lived out in California?
No, I'm from New York City.
Okay, well, that too. So when did you come out to LA?
I went to high school in New York City, and then I moved to Tucson for a minute and pretended to go to school and joined a band and went on the road. And then I moved to Los Angeles in 1981. And that's how I got here, and I've been here ever since, except I go to New York all the time because my dad lives there and I go to visit.
And so you're in LA in 81, and you're already in music because you've been in bands and stuff. So when did the first time it click that there was money to be made with your music and synchronization of stuff to TV or film or anything like that?
Yeah, so that was in 1987, so a few years later, and I didn't, in those days, it wasn't called sync. There was no thing called synchronization or sync, or people just called it a music placement, and no one wanted to do it, and everybody thought it was super uncool, and all the songwriters just wanted to get cuts with big artists, and I was an artist, so I didn't know anything about anything, to be honest with you, except that I had a friend who was making a movie and he needed songs. And I tried one. That's all I knew. I submitted it under a pseudonym because the song was an R&B soul song, and I mostly wrote things that were performance art, like Laurie Anderson in those days, or Kate
Yeah.
Bush, who's become very popular. She was like my idol, and I wrote things like that. They were very avant-garde. I performed them. I had a band, and when I heard about this opportunity, I was asked, did I have any friends who had some songs to contribute? Because, of course, all my friends were musicians and songwriters and singers, and all his people were filmmakers. So I submitted a song under a pseudonym saying it was from a friend, because no one would have believed that I could have created something so mainstream.
Right.
And I got the song in the movie, and that was in 1987.
Nice.
The movie is called Tapeheads. It starred John Cusack and Tim
Right.
Robbins. It
I
was
remember
their
that.
first,
Sure.
yeah, their first movie, and also starred Junior Walker and Sam Moore from Sam and Dave,
Goodness.
who played a singing group in the movie, and they recorded my song. So that's how my first sync music placement happened. And then in 1990, the same thing, the same director, filmmaker needed songs, but this time I actually got hired. I didn't submit. I was hired to create another song from Sam Moore, and this time I got to produce it. And so I mean, again, I didn't know anything. Right?
Well,
I didn't
and
know
you know what?
anything.
This was
and-
such a different time in the industry. At that time, 87, 90, that was going into the richest time in the music business that it had ever known. And I mean, it may be getting back to that now because of streaming and stuff like that, but it was a totally different business. It was all about getting signed. It was all about being a star. And in the 90s, because of CDs, the music business was just overflowing with money. It was getting ready to enter that 10-year period where there was no other time like it. I hear my musicians from Nashville talk about it all the time. They're like, we were doing triples at triple scale, you know, and everything was lavish. They were getting lunches prepared for them at studios by chefs and all sorts of stuff.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
It was a different
Well, that's
world.
correct. Because I, in 1990, also had my first hit song outside of sync and with a major label artist, and got my first publishing deal in 1990, major publishing deal, correct?
Nice.
And also moved back and forth to Nashville for a few years, so correct about Nashville, and got wined and dined very much. So exactly, and also got, you know, multiple zeros on a check.
Nice.
So all those things did happen exactly as the music business was back then. Correct.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so nobody worried about, wow, we got to find another avenue of money. Maybe sync is it, not like they're doing now. Back then, sync was very low on the totem pole because there was so much money to be made as an artist, a touring artist, or just a big artist. And that was the dream for me too, except I wanted to be a songwriter. I was more like you. I wanted to be a songwriter first, artist third or fourth. I didn't necessarily want to play gigs. I played 1,000 of them. Like you, I tried to go to college and then ended up in a band traveling the United States. So, okay. So
Yeah,
that's,
I wanted to be an artist, though. I did want
You
to
did?
be an
Okay.
artist. And
All right.
I did pursue it. And when I was signed to my first publishing deal, which was at Island Music, I was signed as an artist.
Wow. Okay.
Also to make a record deal. But I started loving being a songwriter and a producer, which I especially identify with as being a producer, and morphed myself into being that.
And how long did the artist/songwriter career go on? I mean, I know it's still going on to some extent as far as the songwriter career, but the artist side of you, where you were an artist signed and playing that whole game, how long did that go on in your career? How many years?
It went on a long time, because by the time I even got 1990 came around, I'd already been a professional for 11 years. I had struggled so much.
Mm-hmm.
So But I would say in those publishing years, those deep with my publishing deal, which was between 90 and 92, I pretty much gave up being an artist because I was so excited to finally make real money. And I was so excited that people paid you, and that, and being in that songwriter thing where you're co-writing and being set up on co-writes and stuff. I didn't never had any rights. So when that happened, I pretty much didn't resume my artistry and artist thoughts until a few years later when someone said to me, "Weren't you supposed to be an artist?" and I went, "Oh yeah." I had not even thought about it. I was working so much. So then I went back to it for a little bit, but it didn't last long. By around 98, I was done. And I haven't performed live in 27 years as a singer or an artist. I have public speaking all the time, so I don't do that anymore. But the second publishing deal that I had around 1992, I was connected with the soap operas. And that's really where my sync career took off. And I knew nothing except that every time somebody introduced me to something, I said yes. I just said, yes, sure, I'll do that. Yes, okay. And I got introduced by someone in the business office of the publishing company I was signed to, not a creative, who introduced me to the person who ran the Procter and Gamble soaps, which were in those days As the World Turns, Another World, and Guiding Light.
Guiding Light, okay.
And that is what really propelled my sync career and showed me there was lucrative and creative possibilities, not only on the soaps, but I started pitching to other projects too. So I learned that then, even when it was so uncool and no one wanted to do it, but the friends that I did it with, who I brought in to co-write on these things, when they got their royalty checks, they were all converted. They were going, "Oh my goodness, can we do more?"
Yeah.
One friend sent me this massive swing set she bought to put it for her kids in the backyard, and what I'm saying. So no one wanted to do it, but it was, even then, such a lucrative thing.
And everybody would start it again if they knew what was going to happen in the music business at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s and throughout the 2000s. And
I think that was a disaster. I mean, I had a huge #1 hit in 2001, and 2002 another one, and Napster just disintegrated those.
All right, so you have discovered this, and you were cool before it was cool to do this, right? It was, and so you get into the 2000s, you just say, all right, the single thing is not going to work. It's just, and all that kind of stuff. What is working? Publishing. And really, that's what we called it. In the 80s and 90s, we didn't call it sync. We didn't call it licensing. We didn't call it anything. We called it music publishing, because that's what it is. That's what it still is, actually. When you do a deal with someone, it's a music publishing deal of some kind. And so that's what we call it now, right? Or that's what we called it then. And so
I called it then a music placement. I actually didn't call it publishing, but that could have been more of a Nashville term.
Yeah,
but I called it a music placement.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and probably still do, because I'm used to that. But,
sure. All right. So through the 2000s, you just at that point, do you just go, I'm going all in on music placements. I'm just going to write songs and produce songs and just go all in. And this is what, early 2000s, basically, that you've made this decision?
And in 2002, I had a big hit with Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys, and it was #1 worldwide, and all of that kind of stuff. And for me, it was even the year before, I had a big hit with a show called Pop Stars, which was a combination where they made a group and it was actually a TV show, and that was a coincidence that it happened to have been a sync. But I then, when Napster came in and there were so many hundreds of thousands of illegal downloads of those songs, then that is what made me say, this is not working. And that
Right.
was in 2002.
Gotcha.
So it was very early on when I realized that music placement, synchronization, music in media was a much better bet. And I went much more full on into that as opposed to writing for and pitching for artists, which I still did. And I still had some hits and still had many cuts, but I was more focused financially on the music placements, and I owned my own publishing.
Yeah.
Speaking of publishing, which made the situation doable because I could do whatever I wanted. Also, I wrote with people who owned their own publishing, and I was very conscious to do that.
And let's just get it out of the way now. You believe in owning all your own publishing on everything as much as possible. Would you say that's true?
I believe in owning my own publishing as much as possible, unless it's work for hire.
Gotcha.
I love doing work for hire. So if it's music work for hire where I'm hired, paid for a production music library,
Sure.
I love doing that. Then I don't own the publishing. That's fine. If I work for companies like Disney and Mattel and Nickelodeon and Universal, where I work for hire, make music for them, that is awesome.
Just buy
and
out.
they buy out. Well, I get the writer's share of the
Get the
royalties.
well,
and
so you're
they-
getting royalties still.
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always do. I don't like do work for hire without that. But
Gotcha.
But yes, I love doing that, and it's wonderful. It's creative. It's I like to diversify. But
Yeah.
in terms of the songs in my own catalog, I have only twice, 2 songs, allowed exclusive representation from a library because I really like the person who runs this library. That said, the songs have been placed, but I regret it every day. Only 2 songs because they're my songs in my catalog, and but I don't judge if people want to do. A lot of people want to do exclusives for no money up front and not work for hire and just give their songs away. If they want to do that, it's not my place to say something, but I do recommend not doing that.
Okay.
Right? Then our catalogs have no value. So
Yeah. So speaking of your catalog, where is it in terms of songs? Do you have any idea in general?
You mean numbers of songs?
Yeah, like if you just had.
Yeah, there's about 1,500 songs in the catalog I own that are recorded, all professionally done.
Gotcha.
There's, tons like we all have that aren't finished.
Yeah, right.
Right? And then there's probably about 400 that have been commissioned work for hires.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But can't you still put those in your catalog, kind of per se, though?
Well, I do. They're on my website, and they're
Yeah.
listed as songs and music libraries. And I'm it's a little limiting in terms of pitching them. But for sure, if I have a relationship with somebody, like a music supervisor, I can say, these songs are in Universal's music library, but I want to show them to you. Maybe they're good for you. But
Yeah.
but cold pitching them, I don't do because
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, like, for instance, when I put together, I'm working on my catalog right now to just have a client, a business-facing catalog. I'll put my my published songs in there, and if they want that song, I'll tell them where to go get it because I'll make out good on the back end, at least for the writers, and so and I want them, and they're going to be happy if it's in a BMG catalog. They don't care to go to BMG, do they? Do they care about going to BMG versus getting it from you?
It depends. If it's production music, they don't care because it's not expensive.
Gotcha.
If it's major publisher music like Warner Chappell or Universal Music Publishing or something from a song where a co-writer, let's say, has encumbered their songs by getting a publishing deal, then they care because it's way too expensive and it takes way too long to get approvals. So it depends on the publisher.
All right. So here's an example. I have songs in BMG, in a BMG library. And they have been used on shows and things like that. And I run into a situation, somebody sees my site and they go, "Ooh, I love this song," and they contact me about it, and they said, "What is the deal on this song?" And I say, "Well, it's easy. Here's the link, but it's on a BMG library." And would they instantly go, like, "Oh, it might
No.
have already been used," or would they go, "Oh, okay, I really want that song, so I'm just going to go there and get it"? Would that be cool with them?
Yes.
Okay.
That's totally cool with them. But if I have a song and I have a co-writer who happens to
Oh
have a
no.
publishing deal,
Yeah.
then they're immediately no.
Yeah.
Yes. But your situation, yes, and I have that. So yes, that's fine. Then they don't, and actually it will cost them less
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
to the library than if they did the deal direct with you anyway. So yeah, they're usually fine. And the music, of course, those production music libraries are super quick for turnaround,
Yeah.
right? They license quickly, so it's all good.
Which comes first if you're relatively new to this business? Great songs or networking, do you think?
Wow, that's a tricky question. But sadly to say, I'm going to say networking
Okay.
because there's so many great songs out there. And there's so many people who have, and songs meaning fully produced, master
Yeah.
quality, ready
That's
to
what
go.
I'm talking about.
Not a song in a notebook, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, there are so many people who have that, but their networking skills are poor, and their songs sit there. So I'm gonna choose networking for that. Good question.
So that you can, once you get that network of people and you do have that right song for them. Let me ask you this question. I've known and interviewed people who have made those network connections pretty much first. They went to every type of they met everybody, and they get everybody on an email list, and then when they have a new hit song that they've just produced, and maybe you do this too, you can tell me, but they say, "Wow, I've got this new song and it is fabulous," and they have a select list of people they send this out to say, "This song, I'm not putting it up yet on anything. It doesn't belong to anyone. It's brand new. The rights are all good, and all you got to do is get it. Who's interested in this song?" What do you think about a strategy like that?
I do that.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So I do that, and it has worked out very well. I send it to the people to have handy, even if it's not right for their
Can
project
save
at
it
the
on their
moment.
disco or whatever.
Correct, because I have those relationships, and I even cold pitch them if it's a brand new song and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's harder for someone starting out to do that. They really need to target more. But if they have a little bit of credit, they don't have to have all of yours or mine. They can, then yeah, I think they can do that.
But it shows your reasoning for why networking is more important than songs first, because you've got to have people that you can talk to about these great songs that you put out, unless you're going to do the whole library deal, but we'll do that. I don't even have to ask you this question, which is better, libraries or direct pitch. I know which way you go on this. You would rather create music for the most part and pitch it yourself and or pitch it to your network rather than put it into a library. You've already pretty much said that, right?
Well, the songs, yes, the songs. Well, no, let me backtrack. And
Okay.
I'll surprise you. I believe in diversifying.
Okay.
I want to put my songs and throw them anywhere that their
Same.
possibilities, right, that exist for them and can serve other people. So I want to serve the community, the music supervisors and A&R people and managers and publishers and everybody. So I believe in that mutually symbiotic relationship with the songs. I put my songs in non-exclusive libraries. So I love them, and those are for the songs in my own catalog. I don't, again, put my songs in my own catalog in exclusive libraries, but I do actively seek and look forward to work for hire commissions for that side of my work.
Let's talk about work for hire, because I haven't really talked about that on this channel, as far as working for someone to create something that in the end you will own the writer's side, they will own the publishing side, and you will also get an upfront fee for the work of writing it, just like I'd pay a singer to sing on a song. So tell me a little bit about that process.
Yes, so it's exactly like that. I mean, I'm hired. I'm usually given an assignment of 10 songs, sometimes more. Once I did 16 songs in 10 weeks. So I was like, oh my God, that was hard. I usually get parameters. They were perhaps happy, inspiring, empowering songs in an EDM pop genre is one I've done a lot that I like. I did a country song commission, which was non-specific and lyrically, but it was country. I loved doing that. I get parameters. If I write for something like my Barbie movie that just came out, where I did all the songs for this animated Barbie movie, which was my
Nice.
favorite project ever, I was given parameters, so the song should be about this. This is in the script. The song title should be this. I mean, so I get that kind of thing. And so it's different, but usually if it's for a music production house where it's not a specific project like a movie, I'm usually doing 10 songs. That's normal. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. I get creative freedom on the first pass.
I got you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
After that, it's sure, okay, no problem. Yes, I will change that.
Yeah.
But I do get creative freedom on the first pass, and I love doing it. It's really, really fun.
Now, of course, anybody who watches this video is going to go, that's what I want to do. But this comes from your network, from your experience, from you being there for doing this for 25 years or more.
Way
Right?
more.
This doesn't,
Way more.
let's say 25. And it doesn't come from, though, you answering an ad or a brief or something like that. These are people coming to you mostly, would you say?
They're coming to me and I'm coming to them. I'm
Okay.
also soliciting them, trying to get the work.
Not from a brief,
So,
or sometimes you see a brief and
no,
go,
not
okay.
from a brief.
Okay.
Not from a brief. It's usually me doing research, searching companies, listening to the music on their websites, thinking, wow, I would love to work for this company. This company is really cool. They get some great placements. And maybe a friend mentioned they liked them, or I mentioned to a friend I liked them, or something of that nature. And so I actively suss this stuff out. I don't just sit like waiting for people to hire me. I'm reminding them, hi, I'm here, and I would love to, I have some time and I would love to make some music for you. So that's more how, and I personally believe that the playing field is equal for people starting out. And if they have great samples, they can get the gig too. I don't believe I'm getting the gig because I have experience. I'm getting the gig because I have experience when they're in a rush. When they're in a rush and they don't have time to find something new. But a lot of times, people will even suggest me, and the company will go, yeah, I know what she does. What else do you have? Because I'm not so exciting and interesting. They want somebody new. So if they have
I get it.
time, they want to discover somebody new. Like one of my students, who publicly will tell you she's almost 70. She has gotten 60 syncs in the last 2 years, plus a gig for a composer, a big money. Frida Payne just recorded one of her songs, and she has done some work for hire as well. And she had nothing. And she's not young, which makes it harder. Because if you're young, everybody thinks you're cool and cute and raring to go. And so she has beaten every odd. I'm so proud of her. And shown us that the playing field is equal. It can be done if people network, get out there, and have the goods. Like you were talking about, the great song, the great recorded song. If I just sat here and didn't hustle, I wouldn't get gigs knocking at my door.
Yeah, that is the hard. I teach at night. I'll leave here in about an hour, and I'll go teach a bunch of students across the U.S. online, and also sometimes at the school. It's a recording school. But the hardest thing to teach anybody is I cannot put the hustle in them. I cannot teach them how to hustle. And those of us who have been doing this for 30, 40 years are only still doing it because we hustle more than anybody else. And
Right.
that's why this channel works, and that's why your people keep coming back to you, or they answer the phone when you call. Now, there is a little bit of advantage you have over most people just because of your discography, because of your background, because of your history and your network. But you're saying that just about anybody can do this. But I think in order for me to have success in this, and we're going to talk about a different side of this in a minute, which is not the artist side, but the producer side. And you're a producer, so we can talk about it from that side. But, I'm going to have a proven, and I kind of have it already, but a proven site that people can go to. And when they see it, they go, oh, there's not just a few songs here. There is hundreds of songs here. And this guy has been doing this for a while, and he's, got all these different kinds of sounds, and we can find something we need here. Is it possible for people to start out? You said nothing. She started out with nothing. How do you start out with nothing and get work for hire? In other words, not just, yes, you can put music in our library. Or not, yes, I'd like you to make some songs for us, like my library says, make me some songs. Now, every once in a while, they'll shoot me some money for players or something. But for the most part, you make it first, right? For libraries, you make it first on your own, and then
I don't.
You give it to them.
Don't.
You don't.
Unless
You get work.
unless it's non-exclusive. If it's
Right.
non-exclusive, then yeah.
Okay. And so if somebody comes to you and they say, we want you to create this for this thing that we have, you can you'll work for free if you keep all the rights, publishing, and writers.
Oh yeah.
If you think
I
it's a
do
good
stuff
thing.
on spec. Yeah, I do stuff on spec. Sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
I just did 2 things on spec this week even.
So, and you may or may not want to talk about this here, but, and I guess this is the $20,000 question. What is a good work for hire up front these days? 2,500? 500?
That used to be a
1,000?
great one. It's about 1,000.
Okay.
Is normal. Yeah. The $2,500 ones were really great when they existed.
How much do you work with briefs? Do you work with briefs at all?
To be honest with you, I hate briefs.
Me too.
I hate them. Yeah, they're like an invasion in the middle of the day. Oh God, I find them stressful.
I did answer one from Barry yesterday, by the way, 2 days ago. But I don't like. I have to have the thing made, ready, and just an easy send. I'm not gonna, I
like a brief when they pay me. Again, if they're hiring me and there's a brief, I like that. But but people love briefs. And actually, somebody told me something really interesting, which was that the reason why they write briefs because they know they're not going to get it because it was from some big company that sent, thousands of people a brief.
And you see the same brief on 2 or 3 different websites at the same time.
But they say that it inspires them to create something.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool that they had parameters and it made it easier for them. So it was a creative reason why they chose to use the brief as opposed to really thinking they were going to submit. The spec work that I do, though, I have gotten 50%, I'd say. So on those where I've given the brief, but it's only to a handful of people, and I'm asked from a legitimate source that I know directly to make something, I will do that. But I'm not going to do it if the brief is in 2 hours anymore, right? If I have a week, a respectable amount of time, I might give it a try like I did this week on 2 pieces, right? And so, but the briefs that show up in the middle of the day and have to be done in an hour.
They are interrupters.
It's like, oh, why are you doing this?
I've got another hour to create music. Get out of my way. I only have a limited time here.
Yeah. So people like them though, and we're all different.
Let's say that you're a production music composer. Now, we've been talking mostly, and I would assume, would you say that a good percentage of what you do has vocals?
Yes. So I discussed this with somebody yesterday, which was interesting, who has a library of only instrumentals.
Yeah.
Because I think vocally, melody and lyric When I've been asked and hired to do instrumental music, I make a song. The company never sees the song, but I actually make a song, and then I produce it around.
It's got a vocal
So
where they want it or not.
yeah, but they never hear it. They never hear it because I can't do work the other way personally.
Yeah.
I need to have a song. So I'll write a melody and a lyric to what I'm required to do. I did 3 ads that way not too long ago. So I was hired and I wrote the song. I then did all the instrumentation and, producing and mixing, mastering, all of that. But the song part got discarded.
Yeah.
But there was a song. Yeah. So that's, yeah. And then the instrumentals of that I get placed, which are tons from the production music libraries because they mostly are placing the instrumentals. They hire me to make vocal songs.
Gotcha.
But then I make all the stems and then they place those, which often are instrumental, or just have the hook. Or
What do you think the worst misconception is about music licensing that you hear out there?
oh, okay, maybe the one that tells you you're going to make millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Like sometimes there's people who are giving courses and they're saying, oh, look at this check, it was for $600,000, but they're not telling you they represent 50 or 60 songwriters who contributed, or you can make all this money. I would say that it would be about the money stuff and how fast it comes, how fast you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
You got to be careful with the people you watch, and how much they are charging you for courses and how much they are charging you for these events and things like that. Just be super careful. And
of course, I give a course and I believe in
so do
charging
I.
because I believe, we have to be invested in ourselves. The musicians and the people who take these courses need to pay. They need to invest in themselves. If not, they don't pay attention.
I agree.
And they don't work. Plus, teachers work very hard. So you wouldn't send your kid to school and expect that the teacher wasn't being paid. So so that's how I feel about that. But we have to give correct information, and there's too much information out there that's just not correct.
Yeah.
Right? Just like that, telling people it's a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
Which it's absolutely not. So.
I'm like the opposite. I'm like, this is a long game, folks. And I showed them my checks and how long it's taking me to step up. And I'm kind of my whole channel has been about my journey and interviewing other people, not necessarily people like yourself, but people who are just like me, who are coming up and slowly starting to see some placements and more income as that happens, but how slow it is. I think Jesse is really good and real about that, about
oh, he's great.
those.
And I love what he does, but it's all exclusive library instrumental work.
Yeah, he's focused totally on that.
Right,
only
right.
on that.
And that's awesome.
That's his deal. That's fine.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's awesome. If that's what you want to do, he's amazing at it and makes good money at it. That's right. I want to do everything. So
Yeah.
I want to teach people to do everything and then make their choices.
Absolutely.
So, right. But yeah, it takes a long time to build it up. Is it worth it? Yes, of course. Oh my God, it's magic, right?
It's so amazing.
I work with a group that they got their first sync, and it just aired last night. And how exciting is that?
I had dreams for years about that time. My wife and I would be sitting on the couch, and we would watch this song come on this show, and it happened. Well, it actually happened last October. It's happened. I've been on lots of shows, but as far as that big premium logo placement where nothing is playing but your song, and the vocals and everything. It was on Love Is Blind on Netflix, and it was a logo placement at the beginning of the show. Usually you have to search through the whole show and they've got 1,000 cues in there and you're trying to find where your music's playing in the background somewhere, This was right up front, full blast, over a minute. And so it was one of those times you're like, oh, that is cool. And my wife said, that's you. And I'm like, I know. So, it's
amazing. This supermarket. I mean, that was one of the most amazing ones for me. It was in the supermarket. And I was like,
oh, boy.
I think that's my song. Yeah, it was.
Oh,
But
yeah.
a big jazz artist I work with. But it was, yeah, all that stuff is like the radio when you're driving.
So how do you produce music now? Let's say you come up with do you come up with song ideas first and then work on them and then pitch them, or do you see a need and then and write for that need, or both?
These days, mostly write on assignment.
Gotcha.
Or write with a major label artist who I work with who wants to write songs, and then we write about them. And it's all with their story, and I just help channel their story, which I love to do. In terms of just writing for writing's sake, I don't do it much anymore. So that's a difficult question. But if I were just doing it for that, I'd just be doing what I felt like for the day and not. But if I want to, if there's a brief, again, that we were discussing before that I want to write to, then for sure I'm trying to fit in the parameters of that brief. I will say, though, that my MO these days is up-tempo, happy, positive, empowering songs.
And
Yeah.
you know what? That's what we were taught way back when I took a class from, do you know who Kathy Heller is? Do you know Kathy
course.
Heller?
Of course.
And she ran a thing back in like 2016 or 2017, and that was my first. I had just heard about it from her on a podcast, and I decided to take up on that. As a matter of fact, it was the same one that Tamara was in, by the way.
Yes.
And we were both in it at the same time. But that's when I first started, and I guess what I heard: up-tempo, happy, positive. People want a happy, up-tempo, positive is probably going to be your most successful music that is placed, and that has proven out to be true still. You know.
Yes.
That's
Time
why
and time plus.
I called my whole company Positive Spin Songs that I built just for this. You know, because I want to put a positive spin on all these things, because I think there's a lot of yuck out in the world, and I wanted to make music that would be positive than possibly be in these shows, even if they're yucky shows, even if it's a murder. You know, at least maybe they'll use one of my songs in the background for one part of it or something, and there'll be some light shining through.
Exactly. I feel exactly the same way. I want to create happy songs for the world, and so it's easy to do because I'm a happy girl and I don't like making negative songs. But if I am hired on a commission to do it, I will write dark, eerie pop.
Sure.
For sure. And does it get placed? Yes. But that wouldn't be my natural, like you were asking, my natural inclination. Without a brief, I would want to write something happy and up-tempo and dancey.
So what is your advice to non-artists, non-singers who want to create tension instrumental music, or they want to create production music, or as my friend Dave Croft on 52 Cues says, cues? They want to make cues. Is that more foreign to you as far as trying to do that kind of thing? And what's your advice to people who say, I'm really not interested in writing pop songs. I just want to write instrumental music that gets used. What's your advice
yesterday
there?
I had a meeting with someone who runs a catalog, a production music library, who does that. That's all he wants, and he was explaining to me about it, and it's super cool. I think if that he's made a enormous sum of money, millions doing it, and I think that if someone wants to do that, that's fantastic. That's not really my forte. I'm not that great at it. But if you're an amazing musician and you can player, and you can just churn out these cues like Jesse does, then that is fantastic. And there's such a career to be had doing that. And I say, yeah, do it.
But is it crucial for those people to do networking before they start pushing their songs, or are those people more likely to be able to get songs into things? Like my story is basically I decided I wanted to get into it. I made a bunch of happy, positive pop songs, and I started pitching it to libraries because that seemed like the easiest thing to do without running back and forth to LA and going to meetings and things like that. And I already had built a 20-year production career where I was in Nashville, back and forth to Nashville, and always working with clients and hustling my butt off at every convention to find clients and all that kind of stuff. I'm not quite sure. We'll see. If you see me at a, PMC convention or something, you'll know I've decided to do that. But that seems harder at this point. As a person who I'm kind of split down the middle. My album, I have one company called Positive Spin Songs, which is all songs with usually with lyrics, and I have one company called Master Score Music, which is all production music and cues and things. So, the library thing has been easier because I didn't have to like make a lot of network connections, and I could find some libraries that like my stuff and then just take them. But it's a much longer game and it's a much poorer game, to write all. I write exactly what I want to write all the time, which I'm told is a terrible way to work, but I don't care because I just enjoy making all the things that I make and I want to make them. I will like say, okay, I'm making a Halloween album, and when I get done, I'm going to push it to this person here first and see what they think. And then if not, I'm going to push it to this company over here and this company over here. But eventually, I would love to get to that place where you are. Here's some Halloween albums I've made before. I'd love to make one for you. And would you be interested in it? And it just, to me, it seems like we're in a place where there are so many people not having to pay anything up front for all the music that people want to send them. How do we convince them to pay work for hire versus just say, hey, send us what you got. We'll listen.
Right. Well, that was a lot. So let me just address, first of all, it's awesome.
I'm a lot.
That I love that. No, let me just address that. It's awesome that you do what you love and that's all you do. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you could keep doing that. I would even use the word should keep doing that. And that is something that's,
I'm too old for anything else at this point.
Who gets that? So you're not that old. But who gets that? We don't usually get that. So you are so successful because you can do that. And to me, that's the measure of success. The measure of success to me is when I don't have to do something I don't want to. Mm-hmm. So it's not about financial gain or how many this or that. It's about, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do it. Yeah. And so you are accomplishing that, and we should all be, aspiring to what you're doing. That is fantastic, and I love that. Now, in terms, because it's not all about money, right? We didn't start making music to make money. No. I mean, who thought, we were kids and we were distraught and we were unhappy.
We had dreams.
We had dreams, but I had no idea the dream was financial. I mean, I didn't even contemplate that. I just wanted to be involved in music, loved to sing, loved to make music, loved to write. And I only wanted to do that because of that, not because of the financial.
And because we can't not do it,
Right, exactly. Because we can't, and also for someone like me, I'm unemployable. So right, I mean, I have no skills, no education, and except for music business. And you would, if you hired me, you'd fire me in 2 minutes, right? I mean, there's no plan B. And sometimes I think that's good if there's no plan B. But I also think that people should only do this job if there's nothing else they can do. Because if they can be happy doing something else, this job is too hard. And this life is too hard. And the amount of hours that we work and the heartbreak and the rejection and there's a lot of better things that people can do to make money.
Let me just add this to what you just said. That must be a music center piece of advice, because we give it all the time in Nashville too. And I've heard my engineers and producers say it before. They've said, if you can do anything else, you need to go do that, because we all do this because there's not anything else that we want to do or can do at this level. And so if you can do anything else, and I have lots of clients who are, they're bankers or they're lawyers or they're doctors. They're never going to quit their day job. They make 200, who knows how much they make a year, already. They're doing this for fun.
The interesting thing is they get respected. That's the only thing I will say is most people, when you tell them what they do and you're a music creator, they're like, what else do you do? Mm-hmm. Or they're like, oh, how sweet is that? People get paid to do that.